Okay then, welcome to another campfire. Tonight we're going to look at something a little bit different than the Box Gathering are going to introduce their new sparring cards. Yeah, it's going to be a new resource that's going to come out soon, but we'll be putting out on our webpage. This arrived really during the lockdown. Part of my remit is to start working and building some resource for a level 3 program. And I started to look at how we could look at sparring and things like that. So on the support of people like Rusty and Fletch from the Magic Academy, who work within rugby, and John Rolfe at the Learning Lab, who work within football, they've produced some resource cards, to help aid and contribute to coaches. And we hope that that will do the same with our boxing ones that we've developed for, obviously, the sport of boxing. And we think they'll be useful for the club pathway and even up to national level. These cards will sort of like encourage a more of a constraint, a forward approach, hoping to develop more communication between coach and athlete, definitely skill development, and obviously athlete development. So with me today, we've got a few guests. They've all had a box of cards for about a month or so, and they've been trying them out and having a look. I know they haven't been able to spar, but they've been having a good look at them, and hopefully they're going to give me some feedback. I am very sort of like nervous because I don't know what sort of feedback I'm going to get from any of them. So welcome, Steve Cranston. Hello, Steve. How are you?
I'm great, Ivan. Nice to see you again, mate.
And you. My good friend, John Dennis. How are you?
Mr. Cobb, how are you?
Very well. Jerome Azura, how are you? Jerome?
On mute.
Yeah, good to see you. All good.
And then finally, my partner in crime, Adam Hanover. How are you?
Yeah, very well. Good evening, guys.
Oh, good. So it's really open to whoever wants to start, really. I've passed them out. Let us show people. These are the cards. They come in 4 packs. The first one is Sparring 1, the red. Sparring 2, the blue one. Sparring 3, the green one. And then there's a reflective collection. And they come in a nice plastic container. And there's a little bag that you can use to shuffle them out in to your athletes. So that's it. Adam's got his bag with him there.
I'm the new Debbie McGee.
Well done, Debbie. So, anyone want to start? Jerome, go on, and away you go.
So I've had a little look at them, obviously, because they can't spar in the club. We've been restricted, but I looked through and showed them to the other coaches that work in the gym with us, and some really good feedback. They said they'd be, really, really good when we could spar. But obviously, I had to look at ways that we could adapt some of them. So I looked through all the resources, and I looked at one of them was like for sparring. It was like card 4 free range, working at short range with your sparring partner. Well, I adapted that to the bag, so I themed it on the bag. And then another one I did was card 7, which is a maverick. It says be successful with at least 3 bolos during the round. But I adapted that to the bag, and I said you've got to throw at least 5 in a round. So working on that. And then I did another one, which was a themed bag round, short range, busy with your feet. It was like hat and angles. It was called card 5. And basically it was like stepping around, I was saying step round the bag. Obviously in a sparring situation, you'd be stepping around your opponent, but I just thought I'd give it a try in terms of trying to adapt it as much as possible. And got good feedback from the boxers. And then I did the reflective task. Like how committed are you this session on a scale of 1 to 10? Use that card. What was the best moment of the session and why? And how would a sparring partner / opponent describe you as a boxer? So I did 3 questions at the end of each session. And then I went round the group and got some really good feedback. There was some honest feedback. Some of them said, I only really give myself 7 out of 10. Like, some said 8. But it was quite refreshing, the boxers. Some of them were quite young as well, and they did really engage in it. Did it with older ones as well, and equally engaged. Best moment, they were quite honest what they, liked about the session. And then, how would someone who sparred against them, how would they see it? again, the next session, I did 3 more questions at the end, which was Monday. So what was your goal to become a better boxer? Card 39. Again, they were like, you know, maybe use my jab more or work the body more. They were quite insightful. Most of them were quite aware of what they need to improve. Who their toughest sparring partner was. That was card 29. That was really interesting because a couple of them said each other, if that makes sense. And then we said why. One was like, oh yeah, he's really strong. He doesn't give up. And then the other one was like, yeah, I find it hard with you. You've got long arms and you keep me at range. So that was really good. And then I did card 36 finally, which was who's their sporting hero and why. Some of them said like Mike Tyson. Some said because physically he was a hard puncher. Some said, oh, because of his mindset and how he had a hard background. And one said Javonte Davis. And I think they were really good. And I think when we get back to sparring at some point, they would be really outstanding. But even without sparring, I did get some really good feedback from the boxers. So yeah, thanks for sharing them. They're good, and the coaches and the boxers, I think, actually really enjoyed them.
Thank you. Adam's thoughts?
I thought what was interesting from what Jerome said there, in fact, it was one question that came to mind, if I can put it to you, Jerome, is when you were getting this information back from the boxers, did you actually get any surprises from maybe some boxers that were perhaps slightly quieter and never usually kind of fed back? Did it kind of feel like it maybe empowered them to actually speak? And did it sort of surprise you, some of the information you were getting back?
A little bit. I said some of it sort of is two halves. Some of it was like they were quite aware of like improvements they need to make, but some of them were more. It was good to get that vocal sort of feedback from some that didn't. So I wouldn't say surprised. I would say like it was quite insightful. But yeah, some of them spoke more than they normally did, but they were quite in tune with what they like, what they don't not like so much, and what they need to improve on. They were quite accurate.
Sure. Well,
They just got to do that.
Fantastic. But I was just kind of wondering, obviously, because I only see it with the limited use I can do at the moment, and only with my own boxes and with dice boxes. So I'm just really kind of curious to see what's happening with other people. One thing that is that's been really big with us is that it links sessions together. So we can actually say to little Johnny, who comes in, right, what was your challenge last time when you were on the bag, or when we're doing like shadow sparring with each other? And he said, okay, well mine was whatever, card number 45, and I had to do this. Then we kind of link it together. So what do you remember from last time? Show me what you did. And it kind of makes sure that the boxers aren't just isolating the sessions and doing, well, I've done that card and I'll forget about that. It's okay. Can we bring it to the next session? Can you show me what you remember and what you learned from last session, and then apply it? So it kind of gives you a real good structure, I found, to join the sessions up and have continuity. So they're actually taking a bit of ownership for what they're doing. So, but if you just sort of say, what did you do last week? They may forget it, but having these cards in play almost formalizes that. And I found that to be a really sort of strong thing that's came out of this. Has anybody else seen anything similar to that at all?
I haven't actually used cards, and I've been looking forward to this actual game tonight because I've read them myself. We do a lot of that in the club, but I'm interested in what you say, Adam, that's going to give you some continuation and some you can do some note making to what the box has done, etc., etc. The dynamics of the session we've been running at the moment, we haven't been able to really implement them, but I think that you've got good linking and you're going to invoke some good question. And I think what I'm going to do with my coaches as well is must do a training session with them prior to going onto the floor, so we get you good at timing and asking the effective questions at the right time, and just getting that sort of thing right. Does that make sense? I think they're a fantastic resource, and I think they're really, really good. I haven't put them into action. I'm not going to stand here and say I'm lying. I've just been looking forward to this gathering to see what people are the pros and the cons thus far, people who have had the chance to use them.
Mm-hmm.
Steve,
I think they're pretty good. I think that Ivan and I spoke about when he was first putting them together, and I thought the idea was brilliant. But when I got the cards themselves, I thought it was better than, it was better than he had even explained it. Showed them to the coaches in the club, in my club. Most of them were enthusiastic. We didn't use them straight away because it was all about sparring, and the guys were like, "Well, so we're going to start sparring then, Steve? Is that?" But as Jerome said, they can be used, like on the bags or in shadow boxing situations. You can take some cards out and use them. But what I found is I've started to use them within my dice program at college. But mostly the reflective cards. And like today, we finished, we had 2 training sessions today, which were physical sessions, bag sessions, and a little bit of a weight training session. And then afterwards, I had said to them, right, I've got 3 cards. I got them to pick the cards out the reflective pack. And the questions that came up with was, what made you smile today? What was the other one? What did you learn new today in training? And how committed were you in training today from 1 to 10? And I've asked them to put those answers together in a statement, which I'm going to use as evidence as part of the DICE program from that training session. So with those 3 cards, those 3 questions, I haven't asked them to answer the 3 questions. I've asked them to put them together in a statement. 2,000 words. Whether I get 2,000 words or not, I don't know. But they thought it was a pretty good idea. And the fact that they had chosen them themselves, there was 1 or 2 that chose and was like, oh, it's not going to work, it's not going to work. But they chose the particular cards themselves. So I thought that was really good. Had tried to do a little bit with it tonight in a session when I just come from the gym. Didn't work too well, and I think that's probably because it wasn't planned well enough, and we probably had too many kids in the gym at the time. I think we had about 22 kids in, and they're like, corner of this ring, corner of that ring, they're hanging off the chandeliers to try and give them some space, and it didn't work as well as I thought it would have done, but it worked well the other week, better the other week with the senior boxers. But this was with kids tonight, and it was like they didn't grasp it. But this, as a resource, really important as well. I think Ivan mentioned it earlier, or maybe Jerome did. Communication with the coach. That card is a real link of communication with the coach. I think that's a really good part of it. And any coach who's wants to pull a few cards out, there's his training session for the evening. When he's putting a training session together, pull 2 or 3 cards out, and there's his session sorted. So I think they're great for that as well. Going to make coach's life a bit easier.
Anything that you feel could have been better? Anybody?
No, reading through the cards, there's 1 or 2 cards which I couldn't tell you straight away. I'd have to dig them out. I thought that it seemed a bit confusing, one of the ones, but when I read it through again, it wasn't. Can't remember which card it was. It was one of the sparring challenges. Green one, I think, but I can't remember what it was exactly. I'll come back to you with it. But no, I think there's a great selection there.
To be honest, I did think about sending like an instruction manual out with it, but I didn't really want to make it directly instructional. I want people to be able to play with the idea, and it's not 100% that they have to stick to that that thing. They can modernize it to suit what they want to suit, but that gives the idea of what it wants. When we're through hashtags,
which is exactly what Jerome said there. And we've used it with shadowboxing, and you can use them on the bags. Not all of them, of course, because some of them are like specific to a sparring situation, and they'll be great when we get there. And there's different ways you could use them. The boxer could choose 1, 2 boxers with different constraints, or 2 boxers with the same constraints. But there's different ways you can use it. And I think, talking about using them to put your training session together. So they're very creative. You can be creative from them. The cards are there, and as you say, it isn't like do this, do that, do this. You can be really creative from them. So I think they're a brilliant resource, really.
I think as well they lend themselves to real exploration, don't they?
Yeah.
I think they lend, because a lot of times we go into a session and we plan for a session and we have like a critical learning objective in our session. I want to achieve this today. What this does like I said, it lends itself to exploration. So the boxers actually go out and find different things that wouldn't have happened because of the way you wanted that session to go. Does that make sense? So new skills might emerge because of some of these constraints that have been put in place, which you would never have emerged from your session plan because you were too focused and funneling them to here. Where actually, perhaps these, instead of funneling you, the funnel opens up and they can actually go their own way and try something. So it's a little bit more nuanced in terms of, guided discovery, all that kind of stuff, and they're finding their own individual sort of learning path. But so, I think a lot of boxing clubs are very guilty for finding what you need to do and just repeat until you try and get it perfect, and it doesn't really work. But with this time, I think people just find a little bit more in the landscape as to what is out there and what I can do, rather than just being funneled in one direction. Does that make sense, guys? It's very open-ended. So the fact that Ivan said, I don't want to send out some instructions with it, that would just constrain it even more, I think. So this is just kind of like really opening it up for people to be in that kind of psychologically safe environment and just go, right, I'm going to try this out. It's a little bit wacky, maybe a little bit off the shelf. I'm going to try it out. Bloody hell, I tell you what, it works. So that's quite exciting for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like we said earlier, I think it's really good as well for like sort of assistant coaches who are less experienced, because the temptation is to just when you'd be able to spar, like a few of the guys I could see them looking at going, oh, because when we start sparring, then that gives you pick 3 cards out and they could do 3 separate sort of tasks rather than open spar just all the time. Like obviously, the more experienced you are, and the more sort of open-minded, etc. You can it's easier to think of like how to condition the sparring and stuff like that, lead and only, body sparring, 2-phase, first and third, and all that. But obviously, coaches who are just coming into the game, the temptation is to just have a spar, so by giving them those cards, that's like a really good support for those less experienced coaches, that they can start thinking about. And if they try that, then they might think of their own things that they could use. Do you know what I mean? Like, rather than having to, under pressure with lots of kids around, to just keep doing the same, open spar. So I think they're really good for all types of coaches, experienced ones, because it freshens it up a bit, and then equally the less experienced coaches, because it's going to give them ready-made ideas of how to like sort of condition sparring and stuff like that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that my thought was, whenever I see conditioned spar or constraint spar or something, it's always like lead hands only first round, and then Woba tied the second round, damn well it's going to be lead hand to the head, back hand to the body. You know what I mean? It's sort of like there's no real thought about what they're trying to do. And some of my thoughts were, someone wrote to me and said, I don't really see what you're going to get out of this, but I had one round where one boxer can only do three attacks in one round. So that could be picked to someone like, if you're vastly better than me, say Jerome, you're only allowed 3 attacks in that one round, but I wouldn't know that. So I'm apprehensive all the while knowing that you're better, but you're just sitting there and you're only going to attack 3 times. Do you see what I'm saying? So you're really restricted to 3 attacks, is where that, then slowly I'm going to get a little bit confident and have a go. And there's another element where I think people don't know how to box off the ropes or use the ropes. So make them your friend. Go and spend half a round or a round on the ropes. You've got to stay on the ropes for as long as possible to win, so what happens? So can you defend? Can you get off those ropes and move around to another rope, So I tried to give it a little bit of thought of where the boxer can benefit and get better, but also make it more interesting in sparring. I mean, the very first one was every boxer begins with 1 punch. You've got to score with your 1 punch before you can throw 2 punches. And once you've thrown 2 punches, you can then throw 3 punches. And you just keep going up in combinations. And hopefully, from a coaching point of view, you wouldn't hope that your boxer's taking 4 clean shots, would you? Because that would be a bit what's happened to his defences. But ideally, the one who gets the highest amount of combinations wins the round. So you're actually like, they've got to score. And we miss too often. So some of my thoughts. Any thoughts, Go on.
Sorry.
Go on.
I think focus is the athlete as well. The card, rather than wandering around and saying mum and dad are watching them or whatever, the actual card has got the coach and the athlete focusing on one point. There's a little bit of intrigue and curiosity from the boxer. So I think that's captures the athlete's imagination as well. Sometimes they get so used to the coach whining on and shouting or directing. Now they both read it together, and that can be, have a discussion piece on that. And the fact that they're shiny and bright, I think that's going to help reinforce some of the coaches as well. Like Joanne was saying earlier on about assisting the level 1 coaches and giving them some session. I just think that's going to focus the athlete and the coach together on this one thing, and it's also going to help the coach think. 9 times out of 10, we start the buzzer, and how much actual thinking is done by the coach. We're asking the athlete to think. Now us as coaches are actually got to start observing correctly, looking to make sure that's matching up for what the wants and the needs of the card, rather than just sitting there with our feet up and saying, box, stop. So we're actually having to coach a bit more. I think it's going to improve the coach as well.
I think it also allows the boxer, because you've got that shiny, lovely resource in front of you, and as you say, John, it brings you together at one point to focus. It actually gives permission for the boxer to talk more and plan more and review what they've just done more, rather than us having to fill the void and fill the silence up. It just goes, right, there's a permission. That's what it says. Go and do it. Tell me what. You hear people like Mark Bennett talk about the boxer needs to review first and then tell you what they're going to do last. But we don't tend to do that as a sport, do we? We just go, right, this is what's happened, this is what you did, this is what you need to go and do it. So that card would never even come into play there. But this card says, right, tell me what you did, tell me what you're going to do. Now go away and show me. Do you see what I mean? I really love that approach. It kind of takes that almost have to for you to fill that bloody silence up. Why?
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that's going to get the coach and the athlete, if they're going to work alongside you, a conversation going, problem solving together. The coach, does that make sense? They can sort of problem solve and go on that journey together, and they might come up with 2 or 3 different scenarios that they can come up to, and so the athlete might get some more confidence from the coach as well. The actual coach is thinking, and they're working as a team. There's collaborative rather. Do you know what I mean? I know we are looking for the independent athlete to work independently, but collaborative work and always works as well, because you're trying to create that team. You go into battle, you want someone to go into battle with, don't you? You don't want to be walking over the top of the hill by yourself. You need to know that the general, so to speak, is actually think as much as you are. Which I think that encourages. That encourages.
Before I bring Dave in, I think it's lockdown tomorrow. He's like going to miss his gym. I think that's why he's late on. He's a bit heartbroken, but I'll come to you in a minute, Dave. Yeah, one of the things I'll just throw at you was, what do you think to number 10 on the red then? I said, it's your call. So the boxer can call a huddle whenever he wants. So how often can we see a boxer call a timeout and have a little bit of a thought process? Any thought around that? I just think that sometimes boxers are forced to go the 3 minutes or the minute just to get through the round. Yeah, there's some toughening up, but sometimes having a little bit of a debrief after a minute or something could help him better.
Yeah, I think you're totally right that we have too many survival spars. The clock's running, so we've got to see it all the way through to the 2, all the way to the 3. And the kid's not actually learning; he or she's surviving. The timeout, I think that might be a case where you might have to do a rehearsal with maybe, or a setup with one of your more experienced boxers or your captain of the team, so he or she actually takes a time out and others follow suit. You don't want a weaker boxer. You actually must want to set it up so your better boxer does it. Oh, does that make sense? That isn't just me. Does that make sort of sense? So you sort of given you're encouraging that sort of thought process, but your captain or your best kid is involved in that process, which makes the better kid part of the team. He's thinking, they trust me here. Leads by example. I just think that'd be, if you give it just blasé as a huddle, that'd be could possibly be overused or underused. I think kids might be scared to use it. Just a thought.
That's a good point, John. Once one or two of the better boxers have used it, the lesser boxers would be happier to use it.
Yep.
And it's another creative constraint, isn't it?
Yeah. Not a cop out, but they're using it for, they're not being deemed as the sissy of the group or a cop out or I can't handle this or something like that. So it actually seems a learning experience. But we too often or not, we don't use spar as a learning experience. Like Ivor says, people use it as a toughening up scenario or survival scenario. And it's going to encourage better learning and spars, isn't it? Once quality's gone, the spar should stop, shouldn't it?
Yeah.
Spar should stop. Once quality's gone.
That's one of the reasons, so I totally agree with that sort of stuff about seeing out the round. When they're going to actually compete with a bot, then I maybe we've got round timer and stuff like electronic, but I only really ever use it when they've got a bout coming up, like really close. Because for that exact reason, if one starts getting the better of the other, and I do think that, I just call time when I want. Do you know what I mean? So, because we can't, I don't think it's a good idea to be constrained by the clock because, like I said, what you said there, John, survival spars, it's not necessary, is it? Like, just to get through the round. So, I don't actually, I only use the tactically, especially certain boxers when they're, very inexperienced. I rarely use the actual round timer because, the call time when they need it, really.
So, just welcome Dave Rimmer. Well,
Hi, Dave.
How are you?
Right.
Hi,
Dave.
Thanks for coming on. Give us a little bit of a thought of how you got on with the cards, Dave.
Yeah, I think they've been a good addition. Obviously, we've got our Leaf Academy, which is 3 amateur boxers from separate gyms that go to school. It's a sports school basically, and they come and do their technical training here. And the idea of the program is to try and develop them as boxers and dual career as coaches as well. But yeah, I'm all about trying to a lot of like peer-to-peer coaching and trying to ask questions that maybe lead to more questions. And I think the cards did just that. It gets the boxers thinking outside the box. And yeah, like I say, it helps like the peer-to-peer coaching, and it gives the boxers, because they've all come from like your standard amateur boxing club. You do 3-2s, maybe like you say, some survival spars. They've never like the peer-to-peer coaching to them. They've never even heard of it. So it gets them to stop the chat, to work together. And I always think you're doing a good job as a coach if you can take a step back rather than a step forwards all the time. And I believe the cards are a massive help in doing that. So yeah, we haven't been able to do loads with them, but a lot of the reflective stuff's been really good. And some of it, there's a lot of good knowledge inside the boxes, and it was nice to hear to let it come out. And I think they enjoyed being able to express their knowledge and express their answers rather than being sometimes confined maybe by their club coaches.
Okay, thanks. That's great. Was there any card out in there that stood out in terms of the sparring cards, or anything that you've looked at, maybe not used, but any that stood out to you?
To be fair, I'm not just saying because you're just talking about it, but the timeout card. It was interesting to hear that maybe the better boxer, the boxer on top, would be the one that maybe called the timeout. I didn't actually think about it that way around. My fear was always going to be the boxer that may have been struggling or maybe tired would be calling the timeout to have a breather rather than do it for technical or tactical reasons. But I like the idea of maybe the boxer on top calling a timeout and then engaging in that peer-to-peer coaching and then restarting the spar. But it was funny you said that because we were talking about that one today. So yeah, I did like that one. I'll be honest, we haven't had a massive look through, and we've had a look at the reflective cards, and we've had a good look through them and tried them out. And I just like the way that the boxer can tell you what they want to work on, what they think they've done well, what they can improve on. So I think if they come up with the ideas, they buy into it more. So the reflective cards have been spot on.
Just go sort of on the Hitman, the lead hand, like Thomas the Hitman Hearns. When I first read that card, I thought, will people know who Thomas Hearns are? Us of a certain age, or historians of boxing know who the great Tommy Hearns is. And I was going to say maybe take that and make that more modern with somebody who uses the lead hand well. But I thought, no, actually leave it in, because it might encourage athletes to go and look on YouTube, find out who these boxers are, and actually start to study and become a sort of pupil of the sport of boxing, rather than the ones they see on Sky Sport, BT Sport or Instagram. That might give them a wider scope to actually look at different styles actually understand the sport a bit better. So I played with the idea of Thomas Hearns. I thought, should it be there? Should it be more relevant? But actually, I think it should be there. And who is Thomas Hearns? Go and find out who Thomas Hearns is. Why was his lead hand that good? Why was he so great? So yeah, that's just, I know it might not be relevant, but I just thought that might invoke a little bit of learning as well.
Yeah, it's that bridge to extra learning, isn't it, Ivan? You know, it's like, again, the session doesn't finish at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, whatever. Okay, I'm going to go away and learn about Tommy Hearns now. So, you know, it encourages people to go away and be independent as well.
How about one of them put was like bank your own thoughts, so no communication in rest or play. So any thoughts of that? So the boxer's on his own, there's no sort of like communication. What's your thoughts?
It's independence again, isn't it?
Pardon?
Go on, John.
Yeah, just an interesting concept, isn't it? Because 9 times out of 10 we're surrounded by noise, aren't we? There's noise. Does that make sense? It's an interesting concept of banking your own thoughts, and you know that's really, really good and really powerful. But I think that's something that has to gradually sort of evolve. If you know what I mean? And I think that's something again you have to do with maybe 1 or 2 athletes. I don't think that could be open to all. Because I don't think everybody would grasp that. Maybe they work towards that. Does it make sense what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. Steve, any final thoughts?
No, me big bonus of them, I think that it's a key to communication between the boxer and the coach. Massive key to communication, because the coach and the boxer will discuss whatever challenge is picked out there, and the boxer will be asking questions and you know, how am I going to put this into practice? So I think it's a great key between the boxer and the coach, for communication key between the boxer and the coach. I think they're a great resource. I think you've done a great job. And if I didn't have them, I would have been buying them. So,
well, thanks very much for everyone coming on. They're a pack of just under 100 cards, just under 50 reflective cards, 15 cards per 3 rounds of boxing under the red, blue, green banner. So hopefully it'll add some thought and help many coaches out and give, it's not just the be all and end all, but a lead to further thought and development, really. So thank you very much for taking the time to try them out, and thank you very much for coming on here tonight.
Thanks for joining us today on The Box Gathering. We welcome the global boxing community to connect and share together in order to grow participation, engagement and performance in all of our boxers. Join the discussion on social media or visit theboxgathering.com for more interviews, skills videos, literature reviews, bout analysis and more. The Box Gathering, in partnership with England Boxing. Connect, share, grow.